Welcome to the HMG Executive Leadership Spotlight. Here's our host, Hunter Muller.
Hello and welcome to HMG Spotlight interview. I'm Hunter Muller, founder and CEO of HMG Strategy, and we're interviewing Jamie Holcombe. Jamie's the Chief Information Officer at the U.S. Patent Trade Office. Jamie, congratulations on being a 2024 HMG Global Leadership Institute CIO of the Year Award nominee.
Well, thank you very much, Hunter. It's my pleasure to be considered for this, momentous award. And I really appreciate the fact that I'm here because of all the great work that we've done at the USPTO.
Jamie, you're truly a visionary leader. We're studying visionary leadership. What have you done in the office, and why is it so significant for our audience?
Well, I'd like to say that there's always hope. And why do I say that? Because 4.5 years ago, when I first came to the PTO, they were doing a great job, but they were just hindered by their old technology. And they didn't really know any better because there was so much work being done to award patents and register trademarks that the internet and the cloud just passed them by. So we took 30-year-old technology, we stabilized that foundation, and now over the last 4 years, we've gone on a modernization campaign. And so what I'm here to say is that government actually has a lot of latent capacity. It just has to be unleashed with the right inspiration and the right direction, because all these great new tools that are coming out are really fantastic, and they can be used to our advantage if we only trust our people and get them set on the right direction.
It always comes down to people, right? The classic people, process, and technology. The technology is easy, right?
In fact, it is. It's the easiest. So people, process, and tools is the way I put it. But I learned from the military, mission first, but people always. You can't get anything done without people.
In 2023 and beyond, we're studying innovative technologies. What are the innovative technologies that you're working on now that are making a difference?
Well, I will tell you about our AI and ML initiatives that were started about 2.5 years ago, and they've borne a lot of fruit. And why? Well, 2.5 years ago, we set out on 3 different aspects to learn artificial intelligence and what it really was. What I did, and I'm talking about that latent capacity again with the federal government workers, I challenged them to go out and get googly. And what does that mean? They were certified by Google in TensorFlow, which is the open source neural network algorithms used in a lot of these new ML applications. I sent a dozen people out. 6 went to the West Coast, 6 went to the East Coast. So they had different experiences. And then when they came back, we put those experiences together and we created an effort in 3 different areas to go after and actually use machine learning. Those areas are classification, search, and fraud detection. And I tell you what, our classification has come out head and shoulders more than we ever thought it would. So we've been able to replace a lot of our old technology with the new machine learning. And we've been able to increase our precision up to the 90s and high 90 percentiles, which is fantastic because now we give more time for the patent examiner to actually do his job and create a more quality product and give him the ability to search, which is our second big thing with AI and ML. Now, when you search, we're actually letting the examiners teach their own algorithms. So it's very much an augmented intelligence, not artificial intelligence. And I like that term too, because it goes to the adoption of new technology. Everybody seems to be afraid, oh my goodness, they're going to take my job. But no, we're not doing that. We're augmenting you with these new tools so that you can have more time to do the thoughtful work required. And all this rote administrative and clerical work, you let the algorithms do that for you. And finally, in our fraud detection, what we're trying to do is ensure that we have the right applications and they're not frivolous or fraudulent. And so because of that, we can do a lot of pattern recognition and detection based on the algorithms that we're using.
Jamie, brilliant stuff, brilliant insights. We're studying visionary leadership here. Thank you for your service in the U.S. Army. What can you tell us about what you learned in the service for the United States government? What can you tell us about that specific training and service? And I understand some amazing awards you received and how it helps you be a visionary leader today in business.
Well, I think the biggest thing the Army taught me was you are able to do things that you never thought possible. When you're standing at the outside of an aircraft and you have to jump out and go airborne, I tell you what, you really are testing your mettle. You're figuring out who you are and what you're going to do, and you're trusting all the people that got you up to that point because you want to get down and survive. And so because of that, it's teamwork as well. So one, you challenge yourself to do things that you never thought possible. Two, you're always part of a team, because if you're doing things yourself, you're not really getting the benefit of all the knowledge that everyone else has. And that goes true too for startups. The Army taught me anything, it's about startups and having that perseverance. So the weathering the hard parts and just being able to dig the foxhole when you have to hunker down and keep your cash flow positive when everything around you, the internet, is busting. We started a startup with a telecommunications firm, which I was part of, and I learned more from that startup experience that any MBA course could teach you. You got to do. Academics are fine. It gets you introduced to the subject, but you don't know a subject until you experience it. I really value experience over academics anytime.
Fascinating stuff. How would you characterize building a world-class team and a world-class culture in a little bit more detail?
So that requires an understanding of where you are, taking the inventory, figuring out where you want to be and setting the tone, and then actually executing against that journey path. So figuring out where you are here at the PTO, and by the way, it does not stand for paid time off. It's the Patent and Trademark Office. All right, just getting that squared away. So I found out that more than half of our tenured employees have anywhere between 20 and 30 years of service. These guys really know what they're doing. These ladies and gentlemen, it's an amazing, competent story. However, what we wanted to do is figure out how things could be better, cheaper, and faster. And I know it might sound cliche, but we characterize this whole effort about changing our culture into something I call the new ways of working. And what that does is it gets rid of or eliminates the old ways of thinking, because it gives you the ability to challenge the status quo. And if you had a checklist that you needed to do things off of, hey, how about eliminating 3 or 4 steps because you know how to do that? Checklists are for people that don't know what's going on, or for safety to ensure that you're doing everything and making sure it's thorough. Well, you can do that in a lot better sense and create better checklists all the time. So what I tried to do was create that new culture where failure was actually expected. If you don't fail, how do you learn? As Michael Jordan said, he's taken so many shots, right? He's never made a shot that he didn't take. So you have to fail in order to succeed. And that's what I'm trying to get through. So often in the government, the bureaucracy says, we're too big to fail. We can't fail. Well, if you don't fail, how are you going to learn? So another philosophical point that I put in to create a new culture, everything needs to be done in a 30, 60, and 90-day quarter. And if you can't get results, something that's meaningful within that quarter, then we don't need to talk about it anymore. And that sets the tone for urgency. So the culture was being created to come in and create a commercial look at our productivity. Better, cheaper, and faster with 30 and 60 and 90-day results.
Jamie, fascinating stuff. I can't imagine your leadership style must be very inspiring to work with.
Well, thank you so much. I have learned from the masters, right? So attending West Point served me well. So often they say much of the history we teach was made by the people we taught. And so there's a lot of things that I've learned from the great generals, the great admirals throughout history. George Washington, as an example, is the one who brought in war teams or war trials. And what he did is take a council of war and listen to all the different points and perspectives before he made a decision to move forward. That's including everyone. We talk about inclusivity nowadays. We have to do more than one thing, and that's the diversity of thought. We have to have room in our corporations for the dissenting opinion. So often people are just getting on board. Oh, we got to get aligned. We have to make sure we're thinking the same way. That groupthink is very dangerous. It leads people to go off the rails and over the cliff. Dissenting opinions need to be real. They need to be genuine and authentic. And we need to hear about the other side of the coin. We need to make sure that we're not making mistakes. We do things with eyes wide open. So dissent, the diversity of dissent, is a very key part of my philosophy.
And I see in your background, you were a recipient of the Douglas MacArthur Leadership Award in 1991. Talk to us about that.
I was very honored to actually meet Mrs. Douglas MacArthur herself before she passed into the next realm. And she was such a sweet lady. And I do remember getting the award in the Pentagon, and it represented the work of a lot of other individuals as too. It wasn't just me. It was the whole team. The reason I was there was representing what had been changed from an old Army unit into a very high-performing INSCOM unit, which is intelligence and communications. So we took soldiers who hadn't shot their rifle in years, and we made sure that they were tactically proficient. And that's where the motivation and inspiration came in to change the status quo and not accept just sitting around the barracks. I wanted to make sure people were challenged with feats of skill and feats of physical advance. So these guys who are normally in what we call telecommunications centers, we actually went out and we bivouacked. We actually pitched our pup tents and we got out there and did tactical things that a strategic unit is normally not prone to do. And it inspired a lot of other people to also take that same, because if you wear the uniform, you should be able to shoot that rifle.
Jamie, great stuff. And again, thank you for your service. When you think of partners and vendors, partners are very special and real. And today, more than ever, we need really world-class partners. How do you build a world-class partnership relationship?
You know, it's key to make sure that when you go into a relationship, it's very honest. So often people seem to be holding back with what's the real intent. If you go into things with a different agenda than you've contracted for, that really spells the disaster in the forthcoming quarters. So what you have to do is go with good intent. And that means actually putting out, you might not know all the requirements, but say that in your contract, say that it could be negotiated in the future. And I will say that the government seems to have a very cushy relationship with these large vendors. So I favor the smaller vendors. I think small businesses are the foundation of America. So we would really like to bring in more innovation and creativity into the innovation agency, that is the PTO. And in order to do that, I try to sponsor people for FedRAMP, which is a certification that you passed all the federal requirements. So I'm trying to bring in the smaller startups and small businesses to get them to grow within the federal government system.
Jamie, I love your entrepreneurial spirit and your energy and your leadership style. Congratulations once again for being a 2024 HMG Global Leadership Institute CIO of the Year.
Thank you so much, Hunter. It really is my pleasure.